You're listening to How to 20-something, the best podcast that helps both men and women navigate their 20s and learn how to adult across all aspects of their lives. We're going to focus on career, relationships, finances, fitness, nutrition, and all of the common challenges and obstacles a typical 20-something will face in this post-college life. I'm your host, Jess Diamond, and I am the CEO and founder of Jess Diamond Coaching, where I help young professionals get their shit together, gain their confidence, and own their life. No one prepares you for this adulting world, so allow me to help you feel like you are no longer a chicken running around with its head cut off, and that you actually know what the hell is going on and what your next step to take is. Welcome to How to 20-something. Welcome back to another episode of How to 20-something, where today's episode was a recommendation from one of you, and it's on how far should you live from where you work. And before I dive right into different commute lengths, I want to begin by saying that all of this really depends. It depends on whether or not you hate driving or traffic. It depends on if you like extended alone time. It depends on cost of living. It depends on location. It depends on you and your preferences, while also knowing that you do have the power to change your mind since you're most likely renting an apartment with a lease expiration date. Yes, moving is a hassle and annoying to do, but if you make one decision and regret it, then you can try something new in a year and it won't be the end of the world. So this episode is to help you make a decision based on what's important to you when it comes to work, play, time, money, and how your commute impacts each of these things. And by the end of it, you'll know your own number and what that means for you and your lifestyle. Because there is no one right answer when it comes to your commute. There's only going to be the best choice that supports you based on your current goals, needs, and what you're trying to build right now. I've personally had a 30-mile commute with my first job out of school, and then a 4-mile commute with my second, a 2.5-mile one with the gym that I train people out of, and now I'm down to 1 mile. And I will tell you that having a shorter commute is amazing. There's no traffic stress. You're not putting as much wear and tear on your car, not spending so much money on gas, and you feel like you gain time back if you made the switch from a long commute to a shorter one. But I strategically made that decision to have a longer commute with my first job out of school solely because of location. For those of you who don't know, my first job was a junior interior designer in a satellite office located in Celebration, Florida. And if you don't know where that is, it's one exit past Disney, driving west towards Tampa. Disney is already 30 minutes outside of actual Orlando with no traffic, and people who live in Celebration are families, and then there's surrounding areas like Four Corners that has people in their 20s, but they're Disney adults, which there is nothing wrong with being a Disney adult. I just am not one, and if I want to make friends or choose to live with people, then I need to know we're going to have more things in common. And for me, that means not being Disney obsessed. And mind you, I was moving to Orlando not knowing anyone and knowing that I needed some roommates to offset my low income. So finding people I could get along with and potentially befriend was very important to me. My personal requirements for where I lived was to be close to events, walking distance to restaurants and even the supermarket, safe location, and decently priced. Honestly, that's still what I make my decisions on with where I choose to live. I made that decision primarily based on how I wanted to spend my weekends, which was with people my own age and having fun, going out and experiencing city life as a 20-something. This is the perfect example of choosing weekend life over weekday convenience. So I sacrificed my car and my time during the week to give myself the opportunity to live my life on the weekends by finding an apartment a mile north of downtown Orlando. And looking back, I would not change that decision at all, because had I chose to live in the middle of nowhere near Disney and the pandemic hit 7 months later, I would have been miserable. But that also meant strategizing my time a bit more for the work week with before and after work hours, so I didn't feel like my entire week was being consumed by work and my commute. I highlight a lot more tactics to maximize your after work hours in my free downloadable resource, 3 ways to maximize your 5 to 9 after your 9 to 5, which you can find in the show notes right now. All you have to do is put in your name and email and then check your inbox for the PDF. And One way I tried maximizing my time was finding a gym that was about halfway between work and my apartment. I started with going to the gym before work, bringing my protein shake, my work clothes, my shower stuff, and my lunch, which definitely requires a lot of planning and prepping the night before, but I thought this would be the best way to give myself the chance for more time to do things after work. However, it made me more tired, and I still had about an hour of a commute on the way home due to all the traffic. I think about 3 months in, I switched it to working out after work to break up that commute home, since there was never any traffic getting to the office, regardless of whether I left my apartment at 6 a.m. or 8 a.m. So I thought the extra 2 hours in the morning were worth it. And that actually bought me back some time where I could stay up a little later and sleep in a little more, and I got to shower at home instead of at Planet Fitness, which, if you know, you know. Now, on my way back home from work, I would take the exit right where the traffic really began, go to the gym, get my workout in, and when it was time to leave around 7 o'clock, the traffic was gone, and I was 15 minutes away from home. And if, say, there was a happy hour event I wanted to go to, I would adjust that routine and work out in the morning for that day to be able to make it to that event at night, because I very much prioritized my fitness. I still do, but it was pretty intense back then. So it was definitely helpful to begin my overall work experience with going to the gym before work, because I knew if I needed to, I could repeat that routine once a week or something. I chose where I lived to optimize my sense of community and fun, and I did not choose my apartment based on work for that decision. But overall, my commute was not that bad. I would call my mom or a friend or grandparents on some of the days. I would listen to music other days. But I did have to fill my car up with gas every week, take my car in for more maintenance checks, and refuse to drive anywhere on the weekends. I'm also someone who hates driving. But if you love driving, then a longer commute isn't such a bad thing. My second job in Orlando was 4 miles from where I lived, and it was amazing to feel like I gained all this time back. And then I moved, but basically mirror flipped where my job and gym was to the other side of town. My priorities during this move also changed. I cared more about quietness and peace and less about being in close proximity to the bars downtown. I loved that second neighborhood. It was on a beautiful 2.5-mile loop lake. It was super clean, safe, and extremely quiet. It was a very peaceful place to live and still a 10-minute drive to work. I also knew that was going to be my last place to live in Orlando because I was going to move to Charlotte when my lease was up that following year. I was in the process of building my new life during this transition, this different location move. So I didn't care as much about making friends, and that meant it was okay for me to be further away from the city scene. I needed peace and a similar commute length, and like I said, my priorities shifted to match my next season. Here's where this kind of decision can get kind of messy. If you're in office all 5 days and are making that drive 5 out of 7 days of the week, it's going to feel like a giant pain in the ass after the first few months of excitement dies down. That is, if you're choosing a longer commute length. If that's the case, if you are choosing to commute for a longer time so that you can do what I did with my first job and live where you find is more important for you to build your life, then this is how I'm going to help you survive it. What you're going to want to do is find ways to work with the traffic patterns rather than adding to the amount of people on the road and do things after work that are near the office. If you have a dog at home, that does make it a bit harder. I was actually talking about this with one of my clients who has about a 25-minute commute to work and a 45-minute commute home with traffic and a dog. So she really doesn't have much of a choice when it comes to doing things after work, directly after work, or even around her office, since her dog needs to be let out. And we discussed using Rover or asking her boyfriend or a neighbor or something, and she didn't want to do that. So that left her with the only option of put up with traffic. The other side of this conversation of where it depends comes back into play, not like it ever left, but you need to decide for yourself what commute is too long of a commute for you. Is it an hour and a half, 30 minutes? Is it mileage based, like 50 miles of highway or 20 miles of side roads? Like, this is a decision only you can make for yourself. I'm just here to help you make an educated informed decision and put in front of you things you might not have taken into account when it comes to where you live versus where you work. I think the best exercise you can do when it comes to making this decision is grab a pen and paper and write down what's important to you and what doesn't really matter. Like, is living near a city, if your job is in the outskirts, important to you? Or do you not mind driving into the city for fun on the weekends? It's very possible you don't care either way, and if that's the case, then honestly, I would recommend living close to where you work. Because as I was saying at the start of this episode, it is far less stressful and irritating to make the commute. And then you're in a better mood and have a better relationship to your work. But if your work is either in a bad area of town or an expensive area of town, that will definitely influence your decision. Another thing to note is just like how deciding where to live when it comes to leasing an apartment is temporary, technically so is your job. In your 20s, optimizing everything around a job you won't have forever is risky. You're probably not going to be at the same exact place of employment for more than 3 years, maybe even 1 year for a lot of you. So if you make your decision on where to live solely based on your office, then you might be shooting yourself in the foot in the grand scheme of things. This mentality especially applies with purchasing a home. You're going to want to choose a house that creates a triangle where you live, work, and play, so that when your job changes, because it will, you're not regretting choosing a place to live that's close to where you work and far from everything else. For most people, the sweet spot is under 20 minutes driving or under 40 minutes of public transportation, but only if it supports what you want your 20s to look like. Because the reality is, you're probably not going to live in a city forever. You're not going to make decisions based on your social life 10 years from now. Your priorities are going to change with age, and that's okay. They're supposed to. Make a decision for this current season, this next year of your life, based on the information you have now, and know that this could all change based on what's working and what's not working when your lease ends in about a year. I'm very fortunate to live, work, and play all within a 3-mile radius. But I know that's not possible for a lot of you. Charlotte happens to be a small city. Everything is like a 15-minute drive away if you're staying around the core of it, where Orlando is much more spread out. Boston is giant. NYC, absolutely massive. A lot of cities are huge and don't give you the luxury I have right now, and I understand that, which is why you need to take what I say and apply it to you and what matters to you. Is it time after work? Is it having friends nearby or the opportunity to make friends nearby? Is it avoiding traffic at all costs? The bottom line is, you spend a lot of your life working, and your commute can dictate how you feel about your work, especially because every year they change the work from home policies. And you don't want to resent your place of employment because your commute is a bitch to do. You can resent your place of employment for other reasons. I know this episode was kind of wishy-washy with what the quote-unquote right choice is, and that's because I can't make this decision for you. You need to decide what's important right now and choose where you want to live based on that, which could mean having basically no commute, or it could mean having an hour-long commute. I have 2 clients right now who both want to be able to live at home while working their first job so they can save money, and that looks like commuting an hour for their job, and they're both okay with that because their priority is building their resume and saving money. At the end of the day, everyone is in a different situation. You need to turn inwards and ask yourself, not other people, for what your right answer is right now, which is how I'm going to end this episode. So thank you for listening to another episode of How to 20-something. Hope this was helpful in giving you some clarity in what you're looking for. And if you liked what you heard, if this helped you make your decision on where to work versus live, or know someone who's trying to make this decision, then please share this episode, send it to a friend, share it on social media. Just help me expand my reach to every 20-something in this world trying to navigate the most confusing decade of their life. And if you're really deciding how far should you live from work, download my free resource of how to maximize that time for after work hours, because you're going to want that. And as always, I can't wait to be in your headphones again next week with another brand new episode.